homicide, all total?
14 or so years.
And all total over 20 years in the police force. Is that
24
right?
years.
24.
Police officer, yes.
Would you agree with me that you were probably one of the more seasoned, more experienced investigators at robbery homicide? Don't. Go ahead. Yeah. I know you're going to.
There's more seasoned individuals at robbery homicide than me.
Okay. Well, I knew you were going to say that. I've known you for a while. Detective Smith, one of the things that you do as a homicide detective is you're very careful with keeping notes. Is that right?
Yes.
You understand the importance of keeping those notes.
Yes.
And you, in this particular investigation, you took a load of notes, right? Throughout the period of time you were investigating. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you were very careful in those notes?
I try to be.
You took notes of interviews with witnesses, right?
Yes, sir.
And you took notes of phone calls made. Is that right?
Yes.
You took notes of meetings that you attended with the coroner's office.
That's correct.
And you took notes of meetings you attended with the district attorney's office.
Yes.
You took notes of evidence that was recovered.
Yes.
Evidence that was collected, right?
Yes.
And where the evidence was collected.
Yes.
And you were very careful to do that.
Yes.
Because you understand the importance of that information for times like this, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, you were sitting here when Elisa Fleek was telling you that during the June 29th search, Carolwood, you were standing next to her. Do you remember her testimony?
Objection, this states the testimony.
Sustained.
Well, where were you during that search while Elisa Fleek was conducting her search?
On June 29th, 2009,
Yes.
I was in and out of the room with the photographer.
Well, while Elisa Fleek was taking these items out of the bag, were you directing the photographer?
I may have been.
And in fact, the search itself, the search warrant was prepared by Orlando Martinez, right?
That's correct.
Of LAPD.
Yes, sir.
How many police officers were there to conduct that search?
Myself, Detective Dan Myers, and I believe Orlando showed up later, but I'm not sure.
And Elisa Fleek was there?
She was.
While she removed these items from the bag, you recorded the items that came out of the bag, didn't you?
But
No.
I think
Is that double negative?
No. Bag. There may be more than one bag.
Oh, okay.
Sustained.
As Elisa Fleek was removing these items, did you take note of the items that were coming from either of these bags?
No, I did not.
You never made a note that as Elisa Fleek removed these items, you never made any notes about what items, those items that she found in the bag?
As she was removing them from the bags, I did not.
Well, when did you make those notes? Those notes that you were of the items that were removed from the bag?
After the items had been removed from the bags and laid out for display for photograph purposes.
And you were with a photographer when this was happening?
Then and there, or prior to?
Then and there?
The photographer and I may have walked in the room at that time to take the photographs.
I see. Well, let me show you. Detective Smith, you have your notes with you that you made of your search on June 29th? Is that right?
Yes, I do.
Let me show you. There were the notes of that search consisted of 10 pages. Is that correct?
Of responding to the location and then the actual search, yes.
All right. And let me show you the first page of 10.
Objections improper, he can show them to view to himself, and if he has a follow-up
The
question.
objection is sustained at this point on hearsay grounds.
Do you have the ability to review those records currently, Detective Smith?
I have 3 through 10.
It's true that in your records of your notes that you took of the search there and of the closet and the bags on June 29th, you never do mention in your notes that a propofol bottle was found in an IV bag. Is that fair?
That would be fair.
And in fact, you list very specifically the vials and the items that were taken from those bags in your notes. Isn't that right?
As I was told they were, yes.
And you actually, not only were you specific in the items, you were specific with regard to the medicine, you were specific as to milligrams, lot numbers, all this, everything of that nature that was that was listed on the file. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, you mention that found located in an empty IV bag was a vial of lorazepam.
I'd have to look at my notes.
And the detective is doing so.
That's correct.
And then later in the same notes, then you mention, still in the dark blue bag, one empty IV bag, one empty vial of 100 milliliter propofol with residue. The second page 5 of 10. Is that right?
That's correct.
At the scene on the 29th during this search, you said that you were directing the photographs. Was there? You testified to that. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Was anybody else taking photographs besides the person you were directing?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And that was an LAPD photographer?
Yes, sir.
All right. When you went to the house on June 29th, you located the 3 bags that Dr. Murray told you about exactly where he told you they'd be. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And he explained that there were 3 bags, and you found 3 bags. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go back to June 26th. That was, I believe, your testimony. Your search on June 26th was a result of a phone call from a family member. Is that right?
I was notified by the coroner's office, yes.
You have testified that you found lorazepam bottles somewhere in the master bathroom. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
Could you tell us where in the master bathroom?
I don't know exactly where.
Well, who found the lorazepam and diazepam bottles that you took a photograph of?
I'm not sure, but I believe it was Detective Sanchez.
If Detective Sanchez had found those, that would be reflected in her notes. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Typically.
Haven't seen any notes that clued you in as to whether she actually found those bottles or not?
That's correct.
All right. You also said that business cards were recovered, and we saw there's People's 199 and People's 200. You remember that testimony?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where were those cards found?
Those are recovered from vanity in the master bath by Detective Sanchez.
All right. And that is reflected in Detective Sanchez's notes? Is that how you know?
She told me.
All right. Have she never told you where these bottles were?
Again, I'm not certain whether Detective Sanchez is the one that recovered the two empty bottles.
Well, you testified last week that you actually set those bottles up for photography purposes, right?
Yes.
Who did you take the bottles from to do that?
It's 2.5 years ago. I have no idea.
All right. Bring People's 200 up, Judge. Did you ever go to talk to this guy, David Adams?
Yes, I did.
And where was that?
In Las Vegas.
And you heard in the conversation that Dr. Murray was, when he was doing his interview with you, he mentioned Dr. Adams. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
On the back, this is business card, Conrad Murray's business card, $199. This was also found in that master bath. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And on the back of that card is David Adams, right?
Yes.
These cards, were they found together?
I believe they were.
When you were at the hospital on 25th, 2009, you spoke to Alberto Alvarez, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you spoke with him, he told you that he was called into Michael Jackson's bedroom. He told you that?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And he said when he entered the room, Dr. Murray asked for help because Michael Jackson had a bad reaction. He told you that.
Yes.
He told you that Dr. Murray was doing CPR,
Yes.
and Dr. Murray told Alvarez to call 911. He told you that.
Yes.
But Alvarez never did tell you about performing CPR, about him performing CPR, right?
Not at that time, no.
He never did tell you that Dr. Murray asked him to put vials or bags away.
That's correct.
He said nothing about seeing a vial or a bottle or a bag. He said nothing about any of that. Is that right?
That's correct.
The first time he said anything about that was 2 months later on August 31st, 2009.
Yes, sir.
And that was an interview that you and Detective Myers did at an office, right?
Yes, sir.
And at the same time, the same day that you performed the interview or conducted the